I used to believe love was simple. Two people against the world, holding hands through chaos. That's what I thought I had with Adrian. We weren't perfect, but who is? We fought sometimes, mostly over little things. The toothpaste cap, his long hours at work, his habit of checking his phone mid-conversation. But I always believed in us. Until I didn't. Until the night I found her bracelet in our bed. Her name was Celine, my best friend. The kind of woman who walked into a room and made everyone turn. She was effortlessly magnetic, witty, confident, the type of person who looked like she belonged everywhere she went. We'd been inseparable since college. I trusted her more than I trusted myself. She knew everything about me, my fears, my dreams, my weaknesses, including how deeply I loved Adrian. When I showed her his picture for the first time, she smiled and said, "He looks like trouble." I laughed. She didn't. I should have known then that some smiles hide envy disguised as friendship. But I was naive. I believed loyalty meant something. It started subtly. The late texts between them about surprise gifts he was getting for me, the times she'd drop by unannounced when I wasn't home. I brushed it off. She was my best friend, after all. Adrian even joked once, "I think she likes you more than me." I laughed, not realizing how close to the truth he was, only her liking had shifted directions. Then came that night. I was changing the sheets, humming softly, when my hand brushed against something cold. I pulled it out, a gold bracelet, thin, delicate, engraved with the letter C. I stared at it, my mind refusing to connect the dots. Celine had lost that bracelet months ago. I remember helping her look for it after brunch one Sunday. I'd even joked, "Maybe it's hiding with your morals." She laughed then. I wasn't laughing now. Adrian came home late, smelling faintly of her perfume, a scent I knew too well. I asked, "Have you seen Celine lately?" He shrugged, casual. "She dropped by the office." "Why?" My voice didn't shake. Because her bracelet was in our bed. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe? Or fear? Then he smiled, slow and mocking. "You're being paranoid again." Paranoid. That word has a way of sticking to you, doesn't it? It makes you question your sanity, even when the truth is staring you in the face. I said nothing more that night. I smiled, kissed him goodnight, and turned away. Inside, my heart was breaking, but my mind was awake for the first time in months. The next day, I called Celine. "Dinner Friday?" I asked brightly. "Just us, and Adrian, of course." She hesitated, then said, "Of course, like old times." Her voice was light, but I could hear the tremor underneath. I hung up and started planning. Not just dinner, an ending. For the next few days, I acted like the perfect partner. I made Adrian's favorite meals, sent him flirty texts, laughed at his stories. He relaxed again, probably thinking I'd believed his lie. Celine, too, played her part, sending me voice notes about how excited she was to catch up. They had no idea I was watching every move, every look, every message that slipped through when they thought I wasn't paying attention. Friday arrived. I wore red, not the bright kind that screams for attention, but a deep crimson, the color of slow-burn rage disguised as elegance. I set the table, dimmed the lights, opened a bottle of wine. Adrian came home first, looking smug, confident. "You look amazing," he said, kissing my cheek. "Special occasion?" I smiled. "You'll see." Celine arrived soon after, looking radiant, too radiant for a simple dinner. Her perfume filled the air before her laughter did. She hugged me tightly, too tightly, whispering, "It's been too long." Her eyes darted to Adrian, just for a second, but it was enough. I caught it, that flicker of familiarity she didn't mean to show. I poured wine, pretending not to notice. Dinner started with laughter. Mine sounded real enough. They relaxed, thinking the storm had passed. We talked about work, travel, mutual friends. Every word felt like a lie being wrapped in polite conversation. After dessert, I leaned back, looked at both of them, and said softly, I actually invited you both here because I have some news. Adrian smiled, intrigued. Good news, I hope? I nodded. The best, actually. I looked down, took a breath, and whispered, I'm pregnant. The silence that followed was electric. Celine's hand froze halfway to her glass. Adrian's jaw dropped slightly. I watched their faces, the confusion, the fear, the calculation. Then I smiled. Don't worry, I said sweetly. It's not his. The sound of a fork clattering onto the table was the only noise for several seconds. Celine's face drained of color. Adrian's expression twisted from shock to disbelief. What are you talking about? He demanded, voice trembling. I met his gaze evenly. Exactly what I said. I turned to Celine. You thought you could destroy me quietly, didn't you? But you made one mistake. You underestimated how far I'd go to teach you both what betrayal really feels like. Adrian stood up, knocking his chair back. This is insane. No, I interrupted, my tone razor sharp. What's insane is sleeping with my best friend in our bed. His mouth opened, but no words came. Celine stammered, I didn't mean... You didn't mean for me to find out. I cut her off. That's all. I reached for my phone, tapped the screen, and a recording played. Their voices, breathy, unmistakable. The air left the room. Adrian's eyes widened, horror replacing arrogance. Where did you get that? He whispered. You're not as careful as you think, I said. Next time, maybe don't use your office for personal entertainment. The walls have ears. Celine started crying, real tears this time. Please, Alara, listen. No, I said quietly. You've talked enough. I stood up, walked around the table, and placed a small envelope in front of Adrian. You'll find everything in there. The lease transfer, my lawyer's letter, and a note for your boss. You'll be moving out tonight. His face went pale. You told my boss? I smiled coldly. Of course. She deserved to know what kind of team bonding happens in her office. Celine stood too, shaking. You ruined me. No, I said, leaning in close. You did that yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the woman in front of her. Maybe she didn't, because I wasn't the same naive friend who once cried on her shoulder. I was the woman who'd learned how to burn quietly and completely. Adrian tried to speak, but I raised my hand. Save it. You'll need your voice to explain this to your family. He stared at me like he couldn't comprehend how the power had shifted so fast. Alara, he said finally, desperate, you can't just walk away. I laughed softly. Watch me. They left separately. Celine first, tears streaming, mascara smudged. Adrian followed, carrying a duffel bag of what little I'd packed for him. When the door closed, the silence was deafening. I sank into a chair, not crying, not shaking, just breathing. For the first time in months, I felt free. The days that followed were surreal. Word spread fast, not just about the affair, but about the recording. Apparently, Celine's husband, Evan, had received a copy too. Anonymously, of course. I never saw her again. She quit her job, moved to another city, and left a trail of gossip behind her. Adrian tried calling for weeks. I blocked his number. Eventually, he stopped. I rebuilt, slowly. I focused on work, on myself. I traveled alone, something I'd always wanted to do but never dared. Paris in the spring, Kyoto in the fall. Every place felt like another piece of myself coming back. Sometimes I'd wake up and think of that night, the shock on their faces, the quiet satisfaction of truth finally unmasked. But revenge, I realized, isn't about making them suffer. It's about reclaiming the part of you they tried to break. A year later, I was at a friend's wedding when I saw him again, Adrian, across the room, looking older, thinner, lost. He didn't approach me. He just watched, regret written all over his face. I met his gaze for a moment, then looked away. The music swelled, people left, and I realized I didn't feel anger anymore, just distance and peace. As for Celine, she reached out once. A single message, "You won." I stared at it for a long time before replying. No, I healed. Then I deleted the thread, because winning implies a game, and I wasn't playing anymore. Sometimes people ask if I regret what I did, if I regret that dinner, that reveal. I tell them no, because some lessons have to be learned the hard way. Betrayal isn't an accident, it's a choice, and I simply made sure they lived with the consequences of theirs. So yes, I told them I was pregnant, and, in a way, I was. Pregnant with rebirth, with strength, with a new version of myself they could never touch again. Because when you've been broken that completely, the person who comes out the other side isn't the same. She's sharper, stronger, untouchable. And that's the part no one warns you about. The woman who survives betrayal doesn't just recover, she transforms. And once she does, no one ever gets to lie to her again. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.